What is up, everybody? Eric here from That's Wrestling, the show that watches wrestling that doesn't make you want to poke your eyes out with a light tube after watching it. Today, I'm going to be going over New Japan's Destruction in Beppu show that happened on the 15th. And if you want to get a hold of me, send me any questions, you can send that to eric@thatswrestling.com. If you're watching this on YouTube and you want to get the podcast version of this, you can. It is on most of your favorite podcast directories: Apple, Google, Stitcher, Spreaker, or you can also find it at thatswrestling.com as well. So, going into this show, we had the commentary for the English side was Kevin Kelly and Gino Gambino. So there's just a few undercard matches. I'm just going to kind of skip over those for the most part. There were basically 2 Young Lion Cup matches as well as a tag with the remaining Lion Cup participants. So those, I have not been paying attention to those, but if you want to watch those, you can. So going into the first match that had at least some sort of implications, we had Will Ospreay, Robbie Eagles, Kota Ibushi, Makabe, and Honma versus the Bullet Club faction of Kenta, Bad Luck Fale, Taiji Ishimori, El Phantasmo, and Takahashi. So the story going into this is Kenta is facing Kota Ibushi for the briefcase at Destruction in Kagoshima. Kenta beat Kota Ibushi during the G1, which is why that match has been set up. So that's going to happen on the next show. Robbie Eagles and Will Ospreay are also taking on Taiji Ishimori and El Phantasmo at Kagoshima as well for the junior tag titles. So that's kind of the going into this particular match and why it's kind of set up this way. So right before the bell, the Bullet Club attacks the mostly Chaos faction. I don't think Kota Ibushi is in Chaos, but everybody else, I believe, is. So that happens. And then Ospreay and Eagles do a double fake out on the champs. They tease diving, and then they don't, and then they actually hit a double dive out of the ring. Eagles and Ishimori finally start off the match into the ring. Fale ends up pulling Eagles to the outside, and the announcer, who is Gino Gambino, he is a Bullet Club shill, very similar to how Don Callis has been acting as well. So he's firmly on the Bullet Club side. He actually gets a chop in on Eagles while Bad Luck Fale is holding him back. Then we get kind of a little preview of Kenta versus Ibushi. They exchange some strikes, and then they both hit each other with a head kick at the same time and knock each other down. Both of them actually, Honma gets tagged in by Ibushi. Then the Bullet Club gets into a bunch of shenanigans, and eventually Kenta hits the GTS on Honma, and for the win right there. There's a bit of a standoff after the match between the two factions, and then it kind of winds down from there, and they leave the ring. So moving on to the second match, we are looking at LIJ versus a Chaos faction. So we're looking at Sonata. I wrote down Ibushi, but that should just be Bushi. And Shingo Takagi. So they are facing Rocky Romero, Goto, and Okada. So the story behind this one, kind of setting up, we have Sonata is going to be facing Okada at King of Pro Wrestling since he beat Okada during the G1. And then we have a Shingo and Goto grudge match happening at Destruction in Kobe. Goto was beaten by Shingo Takagi during the G1, so that kind of sets up that match in the future since Shingo was moving up from being a junior heavyweight, and Goto didn't take too kindly to being beaten by somebody who just moved up from junior. So that's kind of the gist behind the match that's going to be happening in Kobe. So we have Shingo and Goto end up actually starting off the match. They do a few shoulder tackle attempts, and then both of them also hit them eventually. There's a bit of chain wrestling going on. Then Bushi ends up getting tagged in. Goto takes a bit away from working over Bushi and actually goes out and attacks Shingo on the outside and tosses him into the railing. Goto then tags in Rocky. He gets a few strikes in on Bushi and then quickly tags in Okada. A few moves and Goto gets tagged back in again. So there's some quick tags happening over on the Chaos side. Shingo on the outside, Shingo's on the outside and he's kind of egging Goto on, but he doesn't take the bait. Okada tagged back in again. Quick back and forth. Bushi hits a DDT, and then so he can make some space from Okada, and he tags in Sonata. Okada and Sonata go at it for a little bit back and forth. During a pin attempt, Shingo gets in and breaks up the pin attempt, and then Goto takes care of Shingo, throwing him to the outside. Rocky gets tagged in, and then we kind of had a bit of a tag team breakdown, or that's what I like to call it, where basically the ref loses control and everybody's in the ring doing all their various moves. Eventually, Sonata ends up hitting a very awesome pop-up cutter, so he throws him up and hits him with a cutter. It actually kind of looked like a pop-up RKO, if you will, and that takes him out of the match. Sonata ends up getting Rocky, who is still the legal man, into a skull end, and Rocky taps out. So LIJ for the win there, with Sonata giving the skull end to Rocky Romero. Shingo and Goto have a short brawl on the outside after the bell, but that's broken up and everybody is ushered to the back. Going into our next match here, we have Bullet Club faction versus LIJ. We have Jay White and Chase Owens representing Bullet Club. They also came out with Gato on the outside versus Evil and Naito. The setup here is Naito is facing Jay White for the Intercontinental Championship, who Naito currently holds, or what Naito currently holds at Destruction in Kobe. So that's coming up this weekend. Evil and Naito are attacked before the bell while they're giving each other a fist bump. Evil is double teamed for a little bit. Chase Owens and Evil are finally kind of start off and are deemed the legal men. Evil gets a tag over to Naito. While Naito is working over Chase, he has him locked up, and he's kind of egging. He's looking over to White over on the apron and kind of egging him on. He almost takes the bait, but ends up staying out of the ring. Evil gets tagged back in. White kicks Evil in the back when he gets thrown towards the ropes, and then again he gets thrown towards the Evil, that is, gets thrown towards the ropes, and Jay White ends up locking up his legs and pulling him to the outside and throws him into the railing. Chase Owens comes out of the ring and brawls a little bit with Evil. He kind of brings him to the back of the audience and slams him into the wall. Chase gets back into the ring, hoping to get Evil counted out, but he gets back in at 18 or 19, I believe. And then Evil gets back into the ring. White gets tagged in and starts working over Evil. Chase gets tagged back in. Evil ends up hitting a Fisherman Buster, and then both Evil and Chase end up tagging out. So we get White and Naito in the ring for the first time during this match. They are taunting each other, and then they start fighting on the inside, fighting on the outside. White is thrown into the railing a couple times on the outside. Naito continues to have kind of the upper hand at this point. He hits the wrecking ball drop kick that he likes to do in the corner. Eventually, White hits a DDT to create some space and tags in Chase. And then they end up double teaming Naito for a little bit. Evil breaks up a pin attempt by Chase. That draws in White, and then Evil hits the Darkness Falls on Jay White, and he rolls out to the outside of the ring. Naito tries a roll-up on Chase Owens, but he kicks out. Evil holds White on the outside and makes him watch as Naito gives a Destino to Chase Owens, and Naito was just staring at Jay White while he was getting the pin on Chase. Just continuing to taunt each other. After the match, Naito is trying to leave, and he ends up with Gato in his way, so he attacks Gato after the match. There's a small brawl that happens outside, and then Naito gets back into the ring, does his pose in the middle of the ring on his side, and Jay White kind of crawls in a little bit, and they have a stare down and exchange some words, and then White slithers out of the ring. So our winners there are the LIJ faction when Naito gave a Destino to Chase Owens. So going on to our next match here. The story going into it is, we have God versus Yoshi-Hashi and Tomohiro Ichii, and this is for the tag titles, the IWGP heavyweight tag titles. God was basically going into this with God getting involved with Ishii's match with Kenta at Royal Quest. And then there was some other bad blood between God and Yoshi-Hashi and Ichii. So basically, this match was originally going to be a non-title match, but because of all that, it was turned into a title match with kind of both teams getting on each other's nerves in the shows leading up to this particular show. So this was a really good match. I would definitely say watch it if you haven't yet. So the match starts off with Tama Tonga and Ishii starting it off. They exchange some strikes and then go into a bit of chain reversals of trying to get each other in various submissions or landing various strikes, but they all miss. And then all four men end up in the ring. They have some back and forth, and then it kind of moves to the outside. Ishii gets sent into the railing. Yoshi-Hashi ends up getting body slammed on the floor. And then Ishii and Tama Tonga get back into the ring. And eventually, God goes for some double team work. They kind of isolate Ishii over in their corner. Some quick tags in and out of the match. But eventually, they go for another double team, and Ichii counters and finally gets a hot tag over to Yoshi-Hashi. He comes in and goes to work on neutralizing both members of God. After a short bit, Ichii gets tagged back in, even though he had been worked over pretty good. Eventually, he hits a power bomb for a near fall. After a huge clothesline, Yoshi-Hashi comes in just for a quick moment to help Ishii, but then it gets back to normal again. Tonga Loa and Ishii are in the ring. They're the legal men at this point, going back and forth. And then eventually both of them get knocked down and both tag in their partners. So Tama Tonga and Yoshi-Hashi do a quick back and forth, and then we get a bit of a breakdown when all four combatants are in the ring, and then Tama Tonga ends up hitting both Ishii and Yoshi-Hashi with the Tongan twist. God hits Magic Killer on Ishii, but he wasn't the legal man. He kind of rolls out, and then they hit Magic Killer on Yoshi-Hashi, and Yoshi-Hashi manages to kick out. Then they tried to get Yoshi-Hashi up onto the top rope. Looked like they might have been going for a super power bomb of some kind, but then Ishii comes in and breaks that up. Yoshi-Hashi puts on a butterfly lock onto, I believe it was Tongaloa. And then and then Jado ends up getting involved and breaking that up, but he gets taken out by Yoshi-Hashi. Tama Tonga goes for gun stun, but Yoshi-Hashi ends up actually catching him and then hands him over to Ichii. Ichii gives him a big power bomb, and then Yoshi-Hashi hits him with a Meteora for another near fall. After a high angle brainbuster, he gets another 2 count, and then on the ramp, Kenta starts making his way down to the ring. So in the end, right there, he gets up onto the apron. He distracts Yoshi-Hashi. Tama Tonga gets Yoshi-Hashi into a roll-up for the 3 count. Kenta pulls Yoshi-Hashi out of the ring after the bell and starts beating on him. And then Ichii goes after Kenta as well. There's a short brawl up on the ramp. All the Young Lions are trying to separate them. And then you have Kenta breaking away and attacking Yoshi-Hashi again, and then getting pulled apart. And then you have Yoshi-Hashi breaking away and attacking Kenta again and getting pulled apart. So kind of a muddy finish here, just like the Kenta and Ichii match. So I'm not sure what they're going to do here. I'm guessing, just because of how the ending happened, we are going to see a rematch of these two teams. Maybe King of Pro Wrestling. I'm not really sure, but I'd say at least I would hope that's where it goes, because this again was another dusty finish in this saga. So I'm guessing we need to see a rematch at some point between Ichii and Kenta over the Neverweight Championship, and this team of Yoshi-Hashi and Ichii against God for the tag titles. Just kind of these dusty finishes. I'm not sure how well it's going to go. So that's where we are with that one. The Guerrillas of Destiny remain the IWGP Tag Champions. So going into the final match, we have a rematch here from Royal Quest, and this is over the RevPro British Heavyweight Championship. This is the match between Zack Sabre Jr., who had lost the championship to Hiroshi Tanahashi. So that's what set up this rematch here. So going into this match, the singles record between Tanahashi and Zack Sabre Jr. was 4-3 in favor of Tanahashi. So as I said on the Royal Quest show, I thought they were relatively even. I thought they were 4-3 or so. So they're actually 3-3 tied up in singles matches going into that match. And now Tanahashi has a 1-win advantage over Zack Sabre Jr. with a 4-3 record in singles competition. So this was actually a excellent match, and even given, so it wasn't the most exciting match or fast-paced match. This was definitely a very tactical and methodic match, and it was actually really good. I know this style doesn't appeal to everybody, but Tanahashi can really work Zack Sabre's style, and it comes out great. I mean, right off the bat, they started out with a lot of chain wrestling and exchanging holds. They actually went back and forth exchanging holds. There were like no strikes during this time for over 6 minutes before they finally disengage. After a short bit of wrestling, then Tanahashi actually chop blocks Zack's leg, and he starts working on his leg. This is going to kind of play throughout the match here. Zack ends up getting out of the ring, and he's trying to buy some time on the outside of the ring, doing his little heel thing. He wants the ref to back up Tanahashi so he can get back into the ring. Zack actually ends up getting mad that he won't get back from the ring. He grabs a chair and kind of lifts it over his head, but a young lion ends up snagging it from him. And then Zack actually attacks the young lion who had taken the chair from him. And during this, Tanahashi goes to the outside and attacks Zack while his back is turned, or I guess when his attention is more on beating up the young lion than it is on the match. Zack gets thrown into the railing, and then they both get back into the ring. Tanahashi goes for an elbow drop, but Zack throws on an arm bar and then starts working on the elbow. And this is kind of going to be a thread throughout the rest of the match as well. So we have Tanahashi is working on Zack's leg, and Zack is focusing on Tanahashi's elbow. So they get twisted up for a bit. Tanahashi then finally gets a couple strikes in to make some space and ends up hitting a drop kick to the knee, gives him a a dragon screw leg whip, and then Zack ends up getting the octopus hold onto Tanahashi. Zack rolls, and then eventually as Zack rolls to the outside after that's broken up, Tanahashi goes for a baseball slide drop kick, and Zack catches him in a knee bar. So he's he's got this draping knee bar over the outside of the apron. And then Red Shoes is trying to get him to release the hold because he is out of bounds because they are under the ropes and out of the ring. So Red Shoes actually has to get a little physical and physically release the hold after the 5 count. He doesn't disqualify Zack, but he gets to the 5 count, and then he has to actually physically release the hold. He argues a little bit. Zack argues back for a little bit. Then Zack is trying to get back into the ring after all this, and Tanahashi hits him with a couple more dragon screws while he's caught up into the rope onto his legs. Once back into the ring, Tanahashi tries to go for the cloverleaf, but Zack powers it into an arm-in triangle. Then they fight for a position for a little bit, getting submission holds, and then they eventually get back onto their feet and have a bit of a striking exchange. Tanahashi hits the ropes, and then he hits a sling blade on Zack, and then he actually hits a reverse sling blade on Zack, and then hits a high fly flow on a face down Zack Sabre Jr., but instead of going for the pin, he ends up trying to go for the Scorpion Deathlock, and he also has his arm trapped by one of his feet, but Zack ends up getting to the rope, and then Tanahashi hits the ropes, and then Zack throws on a guillotine choke onto Tanahashi, but Tanahashi manages to power out. He ends up hitting 2 twists and shouts, and then when he's going for a third, Zack kind of hits a hope spot Zack driver, but both of them are down. Zack is completely worn out, and he can't even make a pin attempt. They both slowly get to their feet and go into a bit of a striking exchange right as the 25-minute call happens during this match. Zack goes for a penalty kick, but Tanahashi ends up catching it, and then he ends up giving another kick to Zack's knee. And after a bunch of exchanges, Zack ends up getting the pin with a ground Cobra twist. So Zack Sabre Jr. has regained his RevPro British Heavyweight Championship with the ground Cobra twist. Zack looked like he might have a loose tooth or two during this match. His front teeth were definitely bleeding. It looked like one of his teeth might have been a little out of place. So I'm not sure how bad that was, but he definitely was bleeding from his 2 front teeth. After the match, he cut a promo. This is Zack, that he wants the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, and he also wants to win the IC Championship so he can throw it in the trash and have the British Heavyweight Championship be the replacement for the IC title, essentially. So this is a very good match. It was your typical Zack Sabre Jr. style, slow, methodical, but it was a very good match. Excellent match to watch. You don't need to be all flashy and doing all these high spots all the time. This match was very low impact for the most part, extremely safe style, and it was a wonderful match to watch. So that's it for the Destruction in Beppu match. So coming out of this, we have a few matches coming up at Destruction in Kogashima, the main ones being Kenta versus Kota Ibushi for the briefcase for the Wrestle Kingdom Show Championship match, and Will Ospreay and Robbie Eagles versus Taiji Ishimori and El Phantasmo for the Junior Tag Championship match. So that show I'm going to watch, and I'll get that reviewed for you tomorrow. The day after that, so let's see, we're today's Tuesday, so Wednesday you're going to get the review of the Destruction in Kogashima, and then on the 18th I'm probably going to do a show about kind of all the going ons that's been happening. We have the biggest thing is, what's it mean for New Japan since Anthem has now bought Access Television? So that's going to be interesting. We are coming up into a very interesting landscape when it comes to professional wrestling, and it looks like we are going to be inundated with suddenly a very crowded landscape on professional wrestling on pretty large networks. So we already know we have WWE on the USA Network. We're going to have them also on Fox, and then we have AEW that's going to be on TNT, and then we have Impact. Impact is going to be moving over to Access, and last I heard they're in roughly 50 million homes. So it's about half the size of USA Network, but we still have that. And then what's going to happen with New Japan? And so we have all types of stuff going on, so I'm going to talk about that probably on a Thursday show. So be sure to stay tuned for that. If you want to get a hold of me, you can send me an email at eric@thatswrestling.com. If you want this in podcast form and you're watching on YouTube right now, you can check out your favorite podcast directories: Apple, Google, Stitcher, Spreaker, and subscribe over there. And yeah, so tomorrow I will get back with you for Destruction in Kogashima. So until then, thanks for listening to That's Wrestling.